Welcome to the Weekly Dose Podcast, your one-stop shop for the weekly news in incretin mimetic therapies, with your host, man on the Mounjaro, Dave Knapp. Welcome to On the Pen, the Weekly Dose Podcast for this Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. That's why you're here. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, ZepBound, compound for the time being. That's why you're here. And we discuss all things obesity medicine, diabetes medicine. That's what we cover here. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you leave it a 5-star rating and review. And we're going to get right into the news this week. Of course, we had the Eli Lilly earnings call and the Novo Nordisk earnings call from last week, which we covered extensively on this channel. One of the main things that came out of that is obviously the Release the Vials campaign came to fruition when a call from CEO Dave Ricks to myself the morning of the earnings call to sort of explain Eli Lilly's decision to release the vials and sort of what all went into the delay around being able to release vials. Of course, they announced that they're going to release the single dose vials in the 2.5 and 5 milligram doses of ZepBound. Of course, the implications there are that starting the people who are on ZepBound, the starter doses, is going to free those doses up for the upper doses of the pens and for the Mounjaro pens. If you think about it, up to 160,000 people a week are starting on ZepBound. And the fact of the matter is that's their growth drug for Tirzepatide. And so if you free up, you think about it this way, everyone who starts on Tirzepatide will use the 2.5 and the 5 milligram. Probably 99% of the people who get on the medication will use those two doses. Not everyone will use the 10, the 12.5, and the 15 milligram. So using those smaller doses that require the most amount of pens more than likely will allow those upper doses to be a little bit more steady from a supply standpoint. Now, as part of this campaign drops, accessibility increases to the branded medication, which is really, really good news. But Eli Lilly definitely pulled a move last week that I think took many people by surprise when they took all of the doses in all strengths of both Mounjaro and ZepBound off of the FDA shortage list and reported them to the FDA as commercially available. So I want to get into the implications for compound medications and sort of what's going on right now, because what we learned in the earnings call is that Eli Lilly did plan to deploy some litigation against compounders of GLP-1 medication, specifically of ZepBound. And so what we saw on Friday, literally the day after the earnings call, was that certain prescribers and certain telemedicine companies and certain med spas received a letter from Kirkland and Ellis LLP, which is a massive law firm, and essentially demanded a cease and desist on the compound sale of Tirzepatide. Basically, they're saying you have, a very short window, a week or so, to respond to us and let us know that you're stopping the manufacturing, the promotion, and the sale of compounded versions of medications, and then cites the FDA website and the website which is reporting that all the doses are currently available. Now, of course, you see Eli Lilly has sort of taken the track and made the calculation that constitutes the medicine being off shortage. But of course, we know that the FDA has elected for the time being to leave Tirzepatide on the master shortage list. So if you go to the top of the report there at FDA shortage website, look up Tirzepatide. At the top of the report there, it still says Tirzepatide currently in shortage. Now, I think what Eli Lilly's doing is sort of forcing the issue with the FDA. They're taking their own interpretation of it and putting their legion of lawyers behind it. So if you'd like to go over to onthepen.com, you're going to find this website here this blog post about Eli Lilly beginning to fire off these round of cease and desist, a little bit about what the implications are. You can actually see a couple of copies that have been sent to me. One is redacted as far as who it's sent to, but the other one on there is one that was sent to a telemedicine company called Tella Health. And of course, you can kind of scroll through, read that for yourself and sort of digest it. In my opinion, this is just the beginning. This is not the end of what we're going to see as a battle against the compounded versions of these medications. And I think that it's very interesting who Lilly has selected to go after in these lawsuits. Definitely smaller outfits, providers, people who aren't likely to take this to litigation, who are likely to get a letter like this from a big law firm like that and say, all right, we're out of the game. So, of course, we're already seeing accessibility to the compound version of this medicine starting to dwindle, which is especially bad news to our folks who are on Medicare. I feel an especially soft place in my heart for those who are on Medicare because it's a patient population who has an advanced stage of their disease, likely dealing with comorbidities associated with obesity like sleep apnea, osteoporosis, heart failure, those types of things. And there's no way for them to take advantage of the manufacturer savings card. So their option, if they're not diabetic, to get Tirzepatide is to pay full freight because they can't take advantage of that manufacturer savings card, right? And so it'll be very interesting to see if Lilly considers this and maybe would consider offering a special program for those on Medicare, because that is a unique market that will be uniquely impacted, I think, by this. Most people in the United States should not be paying more than $550 a month for their ZepBound. And interestingly enough, for most of the telemedicine companies that I've seen, when you couple their monthly subscription fee to get access to the provider and their platform and whatever other programs that they offer, plus the cost of the medicine, you're dancing in that area of $550. It's very close. And so when you add, again, those two numbers, what you're paying monthly to see the doctor and what you're paying for the medication itself, it's pretty close to that $550 number. So we'll see if Lilly, as they contract the availability of these medications, if they would potentially offer something to those on Medicare. That's what I would love to see. Of course, none of us love to see accessibility shrunk by the compounds being harder to find and harder for some of these smaller companies to provide to their patients. Of course, it's imperative now more than ever that you would hashtag report the shortage, because Eli Lilly is telling their story to the FDA about availability, and they're obviously reporting to the FDA on their ability to fulfill orders at the distributor level. We need to be able to report our experience as patients at the patient level at the pharmacy. So if you have a prescription for name brand ZepBound or Mounjaro and you go to your local pharmacy, it's very important that if they're unable to fill it because they cannot order it and get it in, that you fill out a shortage report on the FDA website. That's one way to do it. I'll link it in the description of the show notes. But another way is to visit ro.co/supply-tracker, or just do a Google search for Ro Supply Tracker. That tool will actually not only ultimately report to the FDA on your shortage, but it will also allow you to get email alerts when medication pops up in your area. Again, somebody can go fill out a report that they found the medication. And if it's within a drivable distance to your home, you'll get a report saying it's available at this pharmacy, or this pharmacy was able to get it. So either way you slice it, you need to be reporting the shortage. Tell your story to the FDA, because our patient stories matter just as much as Eli Lilly's story matters about the shortages. So make sure you do that. On the topic of the Ro tool that they have provided to the community to be able to help crowdsource the availability of medications, Ro is now a sponsor of On the Pens podcast. They help bring this to you every week. So thank you so much to Ro. They have a program available at ro.co/OTP. It's called RoBody, and RoBody is going to be a program that connects you with a doctor and basically care for your disease, the disease of obesity. You can get access to medications where medically necessary. Obviously, the doctor is in charge of your care there to decide what prescription may be medically necessary for you, as well as a program that helps patients lose up to 10 to 15% of their body weight. An absolutely amazing program from Ro. So thank you, Ro, for your sponsorship of the podcast and the Thursday night show. Now, the other thing that I wanted to tell you all about was a brand new tool that did launch today. And this is a super exciting one. So we talked about how Ro offers the supply tracker tool, amazing tool for the community now more than ever in the fight to report the shortage, to hashtag report the shortage. Make sure you're using that hashtag if you make content about using GLP-1s. But they've launched a brand new tool, and this tool is super, super awesome. This is called the GLP-1 Insurance Coverage Checker. So you're going to go to ro.co/checker. Very easy to remember domain there, ro.co/checker. It's going to take you to this page where you can actually very quickly, within about a minute, upload your insurance information, and it's going to generate a report that's going to come a little bit later on in your email inbox, and it's going to tell you exactly what medications are covered for obesity. The other thing is it's piped into the supply shortage tool. So it's going to tell you what drugs are covered, but it's also going to tell you what drugs are available per the FDA as well. And so it's got sort of that reporting mechanism built in there too. Just another amazing tool. You don't have to be a member of Ro to use it. It's a very, very slick tool. Like I said, it took me about a minute, and then I got a very easy to read report that said exactly what medications my insurance plan covered and what medications were available. And then if you need access, of course, you can take advantage of Ro's RoBody program. But another amazing tool from Ro. They just keep coming up with tools that are just so helpful for the community, and so thankful that they have chosen to partner with On the Pen, the podcast, and the third. A little bit of type 2 diabetes news. We heard from Novo Nordisk this week that they will be submitting Icosema to the FDA for approval. Now, Icosema is a combination of insulin and semaglutide. This is going to represent like a novel treatment, like a new treatment that is both helping your body to produce insulin as you need it, but also giving you that boost of insulin from the analog insulin. So Icosema has been submitted to the FDA. The combination showed a favorable treatment safety profile, and the rate of clinically significant or severe hypoglycemia was typically significantly lower with Icosema at 0.14 events per patient years of exposure versus 0.63 events per patient year of exposure with once weekly insulin icodec. And so obviously a little bit more manageable from a type 2 diabetes standpoint. This is great news for those of you who require insulin, that maybe you can get a combination drug here too. So we'll be eager to see how the FDA rules down on that after they denied the basal insulin that Novo Nordisk had submitted earlier this past year. In the news of sort of everyone getting on the GLP-1 train, we heard this past week that 23andMe, right? This is the genetics testing company, is going to launch a GLP-1 telehealth offering. You know, this is a really struggling company. I think at last check, they were at about 23 cents a share. So what do? Oh, well, we add a GLP-1 offering. So it'll be very interesting to see how 23andMe folds GLP-1s into their offering. But perhaps they can use some of their database of genetic information to help patients maybe understand and navigate treatments. There is some potential for a very interesting mashup here. But I'm just waiting for the day when you hear that you can go through the drive-thru at McDonald's and also get a GLP-1 while you're there. It seems like everyone is getting their hands on these medications and offering these medications, even when maybe the natural fit with a business plan doesn't seem there. It's like, how can we get a piece of that GLP-1 pie? Now, interestingly enough, this past week, we've been talking about shortages. We've been talking about the implications of compounds. And I think, to reiterate, we have to go back and talk about the report the shortage hashtag. We have to use that hashtag. But I want to just give one last bit of information to you that I want you to try to consider for the future. If you have used the GLP-1 insurance coverage tool from Ro, or if you've been able to navigate your formulary and determine whether your employer offers obesity coverage, I think it's really important for us to turn our focus right now on what we can control, and we can have those conversations with our employers. That's why I'd like you to start using the hashtag opt-in for obesity. Opt-in for obesity is a new campaign that we've started. And there is an article over at onthepen.com with a form letter that you can send to your employer. The whole thought behind opt-in for obesity is most people don't have access through their insurance because their employer has not opted in for the obesity policy rider that is available with most commercial insurance plans. And so we want to start having those conversations, but we want to equip you to have those conversations with your employer. And so in that spirit, we have basically put together a form letter that you can share with your HR team or your owner, depending on what size of business you're in. Obviously, the larger companies may even have a insurance benefits coordinator. If it's a smaller company, you may have to go straight to your owner. But if you go to onthepen.com, there is an article right now called Opt-in for Obesity, How Petitioning Your Employer Can Break the Barriers to Obesity Treatment. Please stop by the website and check that out. It'll be linked in the show notes. But it just sort of lays out the case for employers adding obesity coverage. We've got to have employers start to think differently about this. It seems to be all a numbers game, right? They only have to cover you for a few years. So what good is it if we get you down to a healthy weight? But I think it's very important for them to understand the implications for their employees' health and how important it is to advocate for the employers to add these riders where available to their plan. So you can go there. You can check out the obesity petition for obesity coverage form letter. You click that. It's going to download that for you, and you're going to be able to fill that out, sort of make it your own, and then submit that to your employer. That's what we got for this week. Thank you for joining us. I can't believe we're already halfway through August here. Time just flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that. And until next week, I hope you have a great week, and join us on Thursday night for On the Pen Live on YouTube, 9 p.m. Central. Of course, we always have a special guest this week. Z Ritano from Ro is going to come back and he's going to tell us all about the heart behind the GLP-1 insurance coverage tool. Make sure that you let Ro know on social media that you appreciate them supporting the podcast, and we'll be interested to share a little bit of conversation with Z this weekend. But until next week, we'll catch you later. Thanks for joining us.